This happened when I was in college. Back then, I used to hang out with a small group of 4 or 5 friends, and we'd go to each other's apartments all the time. One of my friends who lived nearby started showing up with scratches all over his arm. And these weren't little mosquito bites. These were deep, raw scratches. I asked him what happened, and he told me, "Mosquitoes keep crawling out of my wounds, so I pick at them with my nails." Obviously, that made 0 sense. There's no way a mosquito could come out of your arm. I told him he should go to the hospital, but he just laughed it off, so I dropped it. Then, one night, at around 4 a.m., he suddenly showed up at my place asking if he could crash there because there were too many mosquitoes in his room. I didn't think much of it. I just let him sleep. We had crashed at each other's places plenty of times after drinking or hanging out late. About an hour or 2 later, I woke up because I heard him mumbling to himself. He was sitting up, digging into his arm, not scratching, literally pulling at the skin. I turned on the light, and his arm was bleeding. The blood was already drying on the blanket, meaning he'd been doing it for a while. I freaked out and asked him what he was doing. He said, "You have a ton of mosquitoes in your house, too." But there weren't any mosquitoes in my place. I told him, "What are you talking about? There aren't any mosquitoes here." Then he suddenly grabbed at empty air and yelled, "Look, here, I got one!" But his hand was completely empty. So I told him, "Okay, catch another one." He clapped his hands 2 or 3 times and opened them like he was showing me something. "See? There's another one!" At that point, I was terrified. I called 911 and took him to the ER. The doctor bandaged his arm and gave him a sedative, and after about 30 minutes, he finally fell asleep. I was getting ready to go home when the doctor stopped me and asked about his symptoms. I told him my friend could explain it better himself. Then the doctor said something I did not expect. He might be dealing with a mental illness. I said, "Mental illness? He just scratched a mosquito bite." But even as I said it, I knew something was really wrong. A little later, the doctor and I went back in and gently woke him up to ask some questions. All he kept repeating was, "I have to go tape it up. No, I have to go tape it up right now." Another doctor came in and asked, "What are you trying to tape?" And my friend answered, "The window." The doctor asked, "Why do you need to tape the window?" And my friend said, "Because at night the mosquitoes come in and get into my arm." He kept talking nonsense and wouldn't give us his parents' contact information. Eventually, I had to reach out to one of our professors, and through him, we finally managed to get in touch with my friend's family. Afterward, I went home, drank 2 beers, and passed out from the stress. By the end of the semester, he stopped coming to class altogether. The following semester, he took a leave of absence. And this was just last year. Even now, none of us know what happened to him. My father once knew a Buddhist monk he was close with. One day, that monk shared a mysterious story with him. A story about a monk said to possess abilities far beyond ordinary human limits. That monk's name was Jinmuk. Everything I'm about to tell you was said to have actually happened. One summer day, a group of farmers in a village were cooking fish they had caught. They had thrown the fish whole into a massive iron pot, boiling them like a stew. As Jinmuk passed by, the farmers noticed him, and knowing that monks don't eat meat or fish, decided to tease him. "Hey, monk," one of them called out jokingly, "can you eat fish?" Jinmuk calmly replied, "Yes, may I eat all of those fish?" The farmers laughed, thinking he was joking, and told him to go ahead. Then something unbelievable happened. Jinmuk lifted the boiling cauldron with his bare hands and drank the entire pot of scalding stew in a single motion. Any ordinary person would have suffered horrific burns, hands, mouth, throat, and their stomach would have ruptured from consuming such an enormous amount at once. But Jinmuk was completely unharmed. The farmers were stunned. Moments later, shock turned into anger. Seeing all their food gone, they began shouting at the monk. Without saying a word, Jinmuk slowly walked toward a nearby stream to relieve himself. Suspicious, one of the farmers secretly followed him. What he witnessed left him frozen in terror. As Jinmuk relieved himself, the fish he had eaten came out alive. Every single one of them. They slipped into the stream and swam away as if nothing had happened. When the farmers realized what they had seen, they froze in disbelief, suddenly aware that they had mocked a true master, and bowed their heads in apology. Jinmuk simply looked at them and said, "Do not kill living beings." Then he walked away.
Starting off, I live on the outskirts of a neighborhood in Cologne, Germany. This is my story. It happened in late August 2023. It was a night that would haunt me forever. The neighborhood was covered in an unsettling calmness, the only sound being the soft crunch of gravel beneath my feet. The streetlights cast long, ominous shadows on the ground, making it seem like dark tentacles were reaching out to snatch me. I was walking after dinner in a dark hoodie, my AirPods in, trying to relax after a long day. As I walked, a pack of stray dogs trailed behind me, their eyes gleaming in the dark. At first, I didn't think much of it. I instantly recognized them as our neighborhood dogs, Bucky, Benny, and Hans. They were normally friendly, but tonight they seemed restless, circling around me as if they were guarding me from something I couldn't see. Suddenly, they stopped in their tracks, their ears perked up and their eyes fixed on something in the distance. A low, mournful howl pierced the air, so sharp it felt like it crawled straight up my spine. The dogs began to whine and cry, their voices rising to a frantic pitch. I tried to calm them down, but they were beyond consultation. That's when I felt it, a sudden, unnatural breeze, icy enough to sting my skin even though it was a warm night. It was as if someone had brushed right past me, leaving behind a coldness that felt intentional. My right AirPod slipped out of my ear, fell to the pavement, and that's when I heard it. A faint, raspy whisper, one single phrase that made my blood run cold. "Go home." I didn't need to be told twice. I turned around and ran, my heart pounding so hard it hurt, the dogs sprinting beside me as if they were fleeing too. We didn't stop until we reached the safety of my garage. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and tried to catch my breath as the dogs whimpered beside me. But the memory of that whisper lingered, echoing in my mind like a curse. I knew then that I had encountered something truly evil, something that didn't want me there, and then the pieces began to connect. It all started a few months earlier, when two of my friends, Karen and Alex, had taken their own lives. Karen had been struggling with the pressure of her studies, while Alex had been dealing with constant harassment from his uncle and aunt. Their deaths shook our locality, but deep down, I always felt something about their stories didn't add up. In the weeks after my encounter, I started hearing whispers from other friends, whispers of their own terrifying experiences. They spoke of shadowy figures lurking in corners, cold spots in their homes, strange whispers calling their names at night. Some even felt watched whenever they walked alone. It was as if the neighborhood itself was haunted, its streets breathing with something angry and ancient, something that stalked anyone unlucky enough to cross its path. And I realized that my experience was just the beginning, a small fragment of a much larger, much darker presence that hovered over all of us. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that walk, about that whisper, and I can't help but wonder, if the dogs hadn't been there that night, would I still be here to tell this story?